I remember saying that I wanted a divorce and I didn't want to go on with the marriage, because at that particular time I felt it was easier for me to not have to take him through that. And I felt that I didn't want him to go through that. And I remember my greatest fear, believe it or not, was losing my hair. And how would I look to him? And I couldn't face him. I just couldn't do it.
She was concerned about my love for her, that it would change. But I told her just what I'm telling you right now, that when I married her, it was unconditional, and I love her now more than ever, because I feel that God put me into her life for this particular moment.
And after the surgery, I was very blessed in that I didn't have to have a mastectomy. But even with the incision, I was very hesitant to want for him to see it. And I remember the first time he kissed the incision and he said, "You're just beautiful. This is nothing. This is nothing." And we were able to laugh about it and joke about it and just make light of the whole situation.
And this is just another hurdle. It was just a little stumbling block, but instead of us stumbling over, we kicked it and continue on, and that's what we're doing. We're just moving on to another stage of our life.
Sometimes I wish for words to tell him how much he's meant to me, and there aren't any. There just aren't enough words to tell him. And so all I can do is just try to show him, how much he means to me. And there isn't anything in the world I wouldn't do for him, because he's done it for me.
Doctors say that a patient's frame of mind plays a large role in conquering disease. Thankfully, with Leroy's love and support throughout her treatment, Rochelle doesn't have to say she has cancer. She can now say she had cancer. Financial pressures plague many families today, and the fear of financial failure can create anxiety and tension.
7 years ago, we had bought our own business and fulfilled one of our greatest desires, was to work together, and bought our own business and put everything, every asset that we owned, anything that said asset, it went in. And knowing that when you get your own business, you're laying everything on the line. And we had to file bankruptcy.
That was the hardest time, when we had our business and we bought the business not knowing it was fraudulent. And we put everything, our lives, into that, assets, and there was just nothing else to give, so we had to file bankruptcy. And that was the very hardest time for my wife, because she was basically running most of the business. And it put a tremendous emotional, physical strain on her.
Through filing bankruptcy and the feelings, the emotions, the stress, the depression that can come, I know I cried for a week afterwards.
And when it was all over with, she unwound like a clock, a wind-up clock, and she was in the hospital for a couple of days just to unwind from it. I didn't know what was wrong with her.
I would say the most stressful aspect of bankruptcy was starting completely over. We lost everything. Furniture. All we had was pots and pans, dishes, towels, and clothes. That was it. No home, and no charge cards, no checking account. I could have become a very bitter woman. Many times I thought, stop the car, let me out, and when you get a real job, you come back. When you've got it all together and you've reestablished your credit or your credibility, or, when you have some things, you come back and I'll be ready. And I thought how devastating that could be, because I didn't marry him in things. I married him as a person. And we made a commitment till death do us part, and for richer or for poorer. And we've been rich and we've been poor. Rich is better, but while we were poor, we had to just still keep going on in that relationship.
we realize they can take everything else away, but they can't take our minds, they can't take us, and our love for each other. And that's what kept us together, was that love.
Through financial disaster, life-threatening illness, abuse, and adultery, the power of unconditional love is evident in every one of these lives. But agape love isn't a magic wand that you wave over a troubled marriage or when times get tough. It is the cornerstone of the marriage vows. So we have asked best-selling author Dr. H. Norman Wright to help us understand how unconditional love should work in every relationship.
In our last program, we discovered that the ancient Greeks had at least 5 words to define the various meanings of love. And as you apply those 5 types of love, you can actually revitalize your marriage relationship. They are that powerful. Let's go back over the 4 Greek words for love that we have already discussed. Eros, which means romance. Storge, which provides a sense of belonging. Phileo, which is a friendship type of love. And epithumia, which is expressed through sex. And now on today's program, we are going to look at the 5th Greek word for love, agape. Agape is unconditional love. You already know how powerful unconditional love can be from the 3 stories we have just watched. So let me give you a few thoughts about unconditional love. First of all, it is an action that you make happen. It is a love that you determine to give. It's not fueled by your emotions or based upon the other person's performance. Agape love, that's your choice. Second, you love whether or not they deserve your love. When things really get rough in a marriage, agape love becomes essential. Because unconditional love goes on even when the other person becomes unlovable. It may be the only thing that keeps your relationship going. And even in the smoothest of marriages, unlovable characteristics can show up in both partners. But a person's emotional security comes from being totally accepted. So there's no substitute for unconditional love. Third, it requires knowledge. You may love and accept your spouse unconditionally, and yet they may not feel love. You need to find out what makes your partner feel loved. Is it by the time you spend together? Is it physical affection? Or is it constant reassurance of your love and loyalty? Ask them. Discover what your spouse wants. Find out what your spouse desires, and through consistent behavior, meet those needs. Finally, agape love expects nothing in return. Let me explain what I mean by that. The other types of love we have talked about, such as romance, friendship, or sex, these all require a response from your spouse. But agape love, that's a gift. You are seeking to meet the needs of your spouse without demanding that your own needs be met. It is an absolute commitment to an imperfect person. So in conclusion, let me say that it's not enough to just say, I love you. The ultimate test is, by your actions or your behavior, does your spouse feel your love unconditionally?
Sometimes society's idea of love seems pretty selfish. But you and I have a choice. We can choose to love without conditions and without rewards and without expectations. And I realize you may not see many examples of unconditional love in the world, or you may even be in the midst of a loveless period in your marriage. So if you and your spouse need help, talk to a friend, talk to your minister, or go to a marriage counselor. Because in a secure marriage relationship, there can be no conditional clauses.
It makes me feel secure to know that there's one person out there that loves me for who I am.
That no matter what happens, she's going to be there with me, and no matter what happens, I'm going to be there with her.
It's just a matter of knowing that he's always there and that I can talk to him about anything.